object of this video is to explain how to build it, because there's no building instructions with it. It all looks pretty straightforward, so what I should do is explain everything as I go along, making it as clear as possible and pointing out any little things you ought to be considering as we go through. So I shall start by laying the plan out on the build and putting some plastic over the top of it to stop the balsa wood sticking to the plan, and we'll take it from there. So let me get set up, guys, then we'll decide where we're going to start. Okay, first thing to do with a new kit, if you're new to building with balsa, get a nice flat building board. I use plasterboard, wall board, because it takes pins nicely. Get yourself some T-top pins. These are T-top pins, and cover the plan with a suitable piece of polythene of some description. I'm going to start, well, you start a model like this with the fuselage sides. One of the things that you really need to do is to identify what parts go where on the plan. Some parts simply aren't labelled here, so but it's kind of obvious when you start looking at the plan. For instance, that one is that one there. It looks like they might have doubled it up for thickness, because obviously there's only one of these. That's what we call F1. There's a couple of engine mounts here. The rest will become obvious as I get there. That one there is curious. It's labelled G1, so it might be on the plan. One of the things I've noticed is that most of the parts are labelled on the balsa wood, but they're not actually labelled on the plan, so something to be aware of. Okay, I can see immediately I've got part 1 and part 2 labelled, so that will be a good start. The other thing you can do is there's a pretty decent picture on the front of the box to help you identify parts, which I'll also be referring to. When I look at the side of the box, this part of the fuselage is sheeted and the rest of the structure is open. I've got part 1 and part 2 labelled here as 1 and 2 there, look, so just put that to one side. Now looking at this, we need part 1 and part 2. Now these are so well laser cut, I won't even need my scalpel there. This is part number 2. That supports the tailplane down that end. I'll leave the other one in for the minute because I'm only building one side to start. Right, this side just needs to be eased out, so just go through the little bits there like that. One up there. Is that enough? Amazing. Pop out the bit you don't want, keep the bit you do want. Pop that over there a minute. Right, so I've got part 1 and part 2 there. I'll show you the method for butt joining balsa. It'd be better if it was a scarf join, but it's not, so we have to go with what we've got. Quickly, identification of the wood here. Flat side down, slightly bigger one way than the other. Yeah, those two are better. So I've got 2 pairs there. I'm going to keep those together. So they're the 2 hardest pairs. This one goes from end to end. They both go end to end, look. We're going to join them lengthwise. I'll show you how to do that in a minute. Now you can do a butt join, but I wouldn't recommend it. A butt join is simply where it goes end to end like that. Much better if you do a scarf joint, that is where you cut an angle. Now, one of the easiest ways to do a scarf joint, you don't cut each piece individually, but you put the 2 pieces of balsa one over the other and cut through both together. So we'll use the straight edge because it's got to be laid down straight when we finish. So I'm going to put that on there like that. And I'm just going to cut through them like this, keeping the blade as upright as possible. So now we've got a nice scarf joint there. Those two will go together like that and make a really strong joint. Pin this directly to the building board now. This is the plan. Pop your pins through at an angle and then they won't pull up out the board. I'll just put one in the middle. That's one pinned, and the other one now I can pin down, but before I do that I think I'll cut it to length. So I'll just use another bit of wood as a, hold it in the right place. Can you see that there? I've got a little, this one ends there because there's an upright here, so that's how far I'm going to go. So just do that there, do that there, cut that one square. It's important to cut it square because you've got to glue it onto the other side, so onto the little upright there. So I'll get my cutting board out, and it's probably easier to cut it with the little saw like that. Have a sander block. You can also sand it square as well if you want, like that. Take off the rough bits. That goes in there, that goes to there like that. This one goes right to the very nose. This one ends a little bit shorter, so that ends there. So what I'm going to do, you've got a choice here. You either lay a rule over the top and cut down like that, which isn't a bad idea, but to help me guide myself down, I'm actually going to get my pen and I'm going to extend that line. So there, immediately we can see what the scarf joint's going to look like. The other alternative is you could have drawn a line that way and had the join that side. It's as broad as it's long. The scarf joint is very strong, whichever way you do it, doesn't really matter. Now I can lay this on top of there. So stop it wobbling about, you can balance it with another piece. Okay, so I'm going to cut through there like that. Not gone all the way through yet. I can put that under there just to protect the plan a bit. Keeping the blade as upright as you possibly can. Okay, now this bit here came off there. Okay, I'm just going to turn it over like that, and that will go onto there like that, and there's your angle, goes straight up. How easy was that? But this is what we call end grain, and because there's end grain in the wood, it's going to be, just make sure that's flat, it's going to be sort of absorbent, if you like. It's going to suck up the glue. So when you've got end grain, you want to put on some glue and just let it set off a minute. The bit I'm gluing it to is side grain. That won't matter because there's no end grain showing. And the same with this bit over here. It's end grain. So I'm going to take that off. I'm going to put some glue in there. Same with that one there. Some glue in there. Just let that set for a minute. And while I'm at it, I'm going to put glue on these two pieces here along the top, because that is very much end grain. And a quick look at the plan tells me that the back end of this is also going to be glued to an upright bolster, so I'll do that end grain too. So that's just to take the worst of the, if you don't do that, then you're going to end up with your joint falling apart, probably. Well, it won't be as strong anyway, put it that way. So here we go with the first piece of wood. I'm going to put that back in there in its place. That goes on the back of there, like that. I'm going to pin that as well. And this one, I'm going to not place the pins through so much as sideways on to make sure it's held in and I can see the glue squeezing out, which is always a good sign. Put one there as well, just to hold that join in nice and tight. Okay, let's do this middle one. Like that. Glue squeezing out. And we can see it's the perfect length for the little tail piece. So the idea of this video is just to help you to build your model, because there's not actually any printed building instructions. And I would say that the aeroplane is aimed more at the beginner, which you could well be if you're watching this video. So we need to get right over the top now, I think. We need to follow the build as I'm doing it here. Now, this top piece can be glued in. So I'm just going to stand up so as I can see that it's in the right place here, because this is quite important, because this is what supports the wing at the correct angle. Pin there, and to get through the pins it's worth having a box of at least 50, I would say. So we just put the glue on the end of here. You can see what I did with those scarf joints. They're a much stronger joint than this butt joint. But there is also another little trick I can show you actually. I'll tell you about it actually right now. And the trick is we can reinforce that joint with a piece of wood on the inside. So we can lay a piece of wood, glue it across on the inside, and it will be as strong as it's ever going to be. Because if you ever crash and the model breaks, it's going to break there. That's the fuselage side longerons fitted up. As you can see, not a difficult process. And now we're going to put the uprights in one by one. It'll take some time. I'll show you the first couple of uprights and then we'll turn off because there's no point in watching every one. And I'll come back to you afterwards. But for the minute, let's go back down and we'll have a look at how to put the uprights in. A couple of offcuts of wood here. So should we start with the one right at the tail? That one there. Again, I can make it over length and cut it to size afterwards, which is what I will do. I'm going to start with the fiddly bits. Seeing as how I'm down this end, and we'll so first thing is I want to make sure this is at least square to start. One side is square, the other side is slightly angled. So get your head right over, try and cut that angle, and maybe a gentle rocking end method just to cut down through there. So in theory, let's see, that bit should go in there. It's a nice fit. That's a good start. So what I'm going to do is to, again, it's end grain. But yeah, let's do it. A little bit of end grain. Dog. Smooth that in. Let's leave that there like that. The correct angle. This one's dry now, so let's put that in. Incidentally, if you've only got slight angles on things, you can mark it just with a little dot one end, just to remind you of which way round it goes if you forget. So some there and there. This is why we put polythene down on the plan, you see. So that bit there, go in there like that. glue. I'm going to pull it gently apart and drop it in place. Just see. Okay, so that's 2. I'm going to work my way down and I'm going to put the diagonal ones in. There's gussets to add here and there as well. They'll add a lot of strength. Gussets are these little triangular pieces, and I think they're already stamped out as well, which is excellent, saves a lot of cutting. And then we'll work our way forward in a minute. So when I get down to this end, I'll stop and you can come back on and see what I've done. Just keep doing it exactly as I've done there. Pre-gluing the end grain, don't forget. I'm going to turn my attention to the front edge here. The undercarriage is sandwiched between 2 pieces of ply, and I would guess it's these 2 bits here, G1. G2 goes between the 2 pieces of G1 and the undercarriage fits in here, and then G3 pinches the undercarriage into position. Now that's clever. The only bit I need here is that piece there, going straight up and down. Just popped out the front former. Don't think we need to worry about, well, don't need to worry about it at all actually. I thought that piece would go in there, but of course it doesn't because it notches over like that. So all we need to put in is this piece here which supports the undercarriage piece. The beauty of building your own aeroplanes is you know how to repair them. So I'm going to mark each one now just with a little twizzle at the end like that, and I know which way round it all goes, like that and like that. So a little bit of glue, just pre-glue these ends. Oh, I've glued that one in already. Try and break it out, why don't you? See, I don't have to worry about keeping it the right way up and inside out. Alright, now there's a gusset for there, which is these here, obviously. Alright, that bit goes in there nicely. This one needs a little bit of tickling just to get it the right angle. Okay, now there's 4 more gussets to go into that one there, so let's find those. Just take your time, enjoy the build, and oh, you didn't see any of that, did you? Oh well, so there we are guys, that's the fuselage side, just about done. I'll stop there and we'll let that dry. 2 bits here, so I could put that piece in now. Let's just clean off the laser edges. That's a lovely snug fit, isn't it? Look at that. And possibly this piece here, they might be stamped out in pairs. That would make sense. They go in there beautifully. You could always put those in as you build it, might have been better, but they do fit nicely because I've quite accurately built the tail end there before I can stick that front on there. We just have to sand it all nice and smooth. If you were worried about it, you could stick a piece of wood on the bottom there just to bring that back out, which is a consideration. So before I can go anywhere, that needs to be sanded flat. So use a big sanding block. That one's only just big enough. Just hold the frame and do some little gentle turns. That's not bad. That's gone down really well actually. So, but I'm still thinking I might put something on the inside of this. Well, I will definitely, to strengthen that joint, because I don't like that. Okay, I thought I'd continue to see the second fuselage side drying. I thought I would continue with the tailplane. Looking at it, the numbers are E or E's, or this side of E's. This side isn't marked, that's fine. So first thing to do is to find all the E's. 2 spars there. I said the front one's that one there. I've just pressed out all the E1s. There's 8 in total. I'm going to just glue them together so they're drying, and the way to get them accurately is just to thread them onto a piece of the dowel and set them onto the board and glue them all together, and then I know that they're all lined up and everything's as it should be. I can use straight edges here to get everything nice and square. I can just give it a little clean up with the sandpaper afterwards, just to make sure there's no high spots or a file. So E11 goes down, and then we build the rest up on it. Just taking off the minimum amount there to get me fitting nicely. This tapers up and down both sides, so I can't just build it flat this side, because this side will be in the air. So a couple of little bits of scrap 3/32 wood just to wedge in there, so it's, as long as it's equal both sides. Ribs have to be cut on these dotted lines and threaded in, one each side. Okay, so we've sussed out how the ribs go. They go in there like that. And that rib goes in there like that, because something has to be pinned down. So what I think I'll do is glue this into that, and then I'm going to glue each rib in. That's that one there, look. So that goes in, that one there. Right, now we can put the dowel through gently. So I've slid this in, I've placed on a little bit of glue on each one, and then just slid it into place. So next job is going to be the leading edge. I think the best way to do this, is going to be to possibly mark the ribs with pencil here, and just put a little bit of glue on the leading edge where they go. A little wobble just to get it in. Pull them all in and clean up the glue. It might be an idea, to construct it. Actually, just put 2 little bits of glue just to hold it together, and then when you sand it, you sand the whole lot as one block, and then the whole thing will get sanded into one smooth shape, and then you can just pop your scalpel through the glue points. And I think the glue points are going to be at each end and one in the middle. Alright, this is just for sanding purposes. Wonder if I want to glue the ribs in now. I'll put them on second. So I'm just going to put a little bit of glue there, a little bit there, a little bit there, and a little bit there. Okay, and I can separate these out afterwards once everything's dried and sanded. E11 8 2. Going to glue on top of that, yeah, like that. Trailing edge piece is going to go like that. Okay, and then that piece there is going to go on top of there. and then when it's all dry, this whole section will be sanded down to match the contours of the rib right next to it. The wing tips are up in the air. The main spar tips are up in the air, and they also have to be shaped to match that of the plan. Then that will glue in from there up to there. Make sure you get them up the right way. Flat a bit at the bottom. Now these only butt onto this, but I want to make sure I'm going to pack them down with a piece of packing, just a bit of edging, the same thickness as that. Put that in there like that. But this end one though, that's different. That one goes down like that, and then these go on there like that. So that just needs this little bit of packing on the end. Actually could have come a little bit deeper. So that's just going to go under there to support that while it sets. Okay, look at that, beautiful. Okay, nice. Now, got to hold it all in place. Pushed against there. Now you see that rib's slightly up, so that one's got to go down till it's there. It's springing back up for a reason, so let's just pop a little bit of wood like that just to hold that down. I also need to just clean up the glue joints. Okay, so obviously I can't fix the wingtip on yet, but I did say I'll probably CA that, so I'm going to now take that off of there because I need to get in there, glue that one on there. I just need to cut that shape out. Just leave that like that for a minute. Right, that's got to glue in there because this wood has to be taken right down, sanded, or will become clear if you're not following quite why I'm doing this. Okay, in with that bit there. That's how you build one side. I'll build the other side, and then we'll have to have a look at cutting that and getting the wingtips CA'd on. So let me go away, build this side exactly the same way, and I'll see you back soon. So first job, to join these two components the correct way around, which is that way. Just like that. They will have to be separated again when I separate the elevator. So these are such a good fit that you don't need to do it over the plan even. A little bit of packing, lay it over the top, it's better. Okay, see how it fits. And now I can actually glue this front and those sides by moving it open slightly. Anything that's pinned through like that, hold down. Well, I've got to say, these heavy great chunks of wood add a lot of weight to the back edge, but it does make for a very simple structure, doesn't it? There we are, one tailplane. On the back edge here, I've got to sand this right down to this section here, so there's a lot to come off there. When it's completely sanded and smooth, then I can split it. I'll put 2 bits of glue there and a couple at the end. It should split pretty clean, then we can sand that face and make it look all very nice. Okay, I'm just going to cut out some of these fuselage joining parts. I've got the plywood here, the 2 front formers I've cut out and glued a couple of hours ago, so they're nicely set now. Something to be aware of, hole in the center is not in the center, it's off center. And you've got an X here, which is for your lining up your mounting bolts for your electric motor. Cut out these other parts. These are motor mounts for an IC engine, petrol engine. I don't think, well, I won't be fitting a petrol engine, but I'll go in there like that. Then that'll go, that's G3, G1 beg your pardon, then G2 goes on there like that, and then the other G1 goes on there like that. And what you're left with is a slot for the undercarriage to fit up into. Okay, but that's not going to hold it in place, so G3 will then go up inside there like that. So a little peep inside. I'm going to taper it a little bit because the undercarriage is bent a little bit tighter than it needs to be, and that'll hold it up into place like that. But obviously you don't put this piece in, you don't put G3 in until you come to fit the undercarriage. The bit we're really concerned about is this big piece at the front, because this is square and it tapers up from here. So first of all, we're going to build the square bit. We can put this one in first, the very front. I'm going to face it so the cross is forward and the hole is towards the left hand side. It goes there like that. There we go. These here, first one goes in there like that. Right, let's just pop a couple of pegs on there just to hold things together just for a few minutes while it's drying. That is, by the way, is the instrument panel that will be going in there. Right, that's going to glue on there like that, and I'm going to line it up with the top edge because that's where the wing is sitting. I'm going to bring it slightly in front here because I want the holes to line up with a minimum amount of correcting. It bleeds off slightly at the bottom, but like I said earlier, if you're concerned, you can glue a piece of wood in there. So let's glue this in place, glue the other one, then I can wave them down. Right, get that surplus glue off the bottom edge. I'm not sure what I'm going to do there yet. I might stick a bit of wood in there. Probably will actually. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is to lay those down with a weight on top of it and just let that set off. So I'll back as soon as that's done. Here's a little tip for you. Just started to cut the cross braces, and to get the exact width required, I'm just taking it off of the former there. So just by lining that up there like that and then putting the knife cut there, I've got the exact width I needed for the cross bases. If you can't cut a nice square cut down, then cut it and sand it oversized, but with experience you can cut a lovely beautiful cut like that. The fuselage sides are on. I did add a little piece of wood on the bottom there in the end. It's important to get this undercarriage block in the right place, and that is behind there like that. There's probably no reason why it couldn't be glued on in position. Same with that one there. As soon as I had it both 90 degrees, I could set those up to 90 degrees and glue them on first. It's going to glue on there like that. What I'm going to do, I'm going to just extend the lines on the plan so as I can see what I'm doing here. Like that. One over there. There we are. Can't go anywhere now. I've covered it all 4 ways. So if I glue that in there like that, using this square as a guide, like that, or if you wanted to, you could use Lego bricks. Not quite as accurate for this build, but not far out. Pretty much there actually, so Lego bricks are a nice square alternative. Certainly square that way anyway. There we go. So just wipe off that little bit of surplus. Put that one on as well. The open bit is going down so as the undercarriage can plug in. That goes in there. Okay, so we'll let that set off there, chaps, and come back to it. While I've got the glue out though, let's just pre-glue the ends of these cross braces. This has just had enough time to flash off, I think, guys, so all we need to do is to glue this onto there very carefully. So if I just run some glue on there, we can put the 2 bits together. So we need glue in here. That should do it. That should just sit in there beautifully. Let's have a go. We'll leave that to dry. And what I can do, in fact, is to turn it over and put a block on it. So if I turn that like that, I can put some heavy weights on it. I can see the glue squeezing out nicely. Just where it's needed. Okay guys, I strongly recommend you put that reinforcement on the inside of this joint. It's just not good enough butt joined. It's going to break. If it doesn't break while you're building it, it's going to break pretty soon after flying it. So please use a bit of scrap balsa, plenty of it here. Cut a couple of pieces off, stick them on the inside, but they're really solid now. I've just located parts 38, which on the thicker piece of board, these little triangular gussets which go in here behind the firewall, top and bottom. Okay, let me show you what I've done wrong. Let me just have a quick sip of coffee. Okay, that's easy enough. You won't need to do this. This is my error. Okay, here's the answer then. When you build the fuselage sides, the bottom longeron extends as they've illustrated there. The top one ends short and the middle one ends short, and the filler pieces obviously end short anyway. That will then go in there like that. Then I can shape the top of it down to match where the tailplane sits. Okay, the glue down there, hold it nice and flat and square, and just drop that in place. I'll just go in there like that. So this glues in just here, forms the dashboard, and we've got about there. Now I've got to angle the bottom corners to get that in, and then we have a piece in the top here that goes like that. This top piece wants to be pretty much horizontal or parallel to the main longeron, so you can't just throw a model aeroplane together. Sometimes you have to fit the various parts that come with the kit, like that. Doesn't quite fit nicely at the back there. I should have offered this up before I fitted this, because although it's got it shown right in the corner on the plan, it could just at the base just come forward slightly, just so as the wood fits slightly better. Put some CA along the bottom and up the side, just the first ½ inch. It wants to come forward slightly because I want that to be there like that. Now I can just run some glue in and just finish it off there. See how easy it is to fit it when it's damp, but if you don't damp it, it'll split. You see how important it is to have these cut nice and square, because they're just not going to make a very good glue joint if they're not. Pull that up into position. Set this to one side to dry a bit before I glue the others in. You saw me glue these, so I'll glue those in off camera and make a start on the rudder, I think.